Okay, I was like, I thought I remembered how to get there, but my brain can't remember very well. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap up the end of this chapter for you guys. Basically talk about how the end of the American Revolution comes to pass. Big old document that we end up signing that ends the war, the Revolutionary War, is the Treaty of Paris signed in 1783. But in order for us to get from beginning of talking about the revolution, I'm going to turn this off so the lights off so you can see a little better, to getting to where we end up finally becoming an independent nation. It's kind of a long process to get between there. Guys, I'm sorry, I know, but I chose a really bad background for this room. Sorry. As per the name of the treaty, it's called the Treaty of Paris. Where in the world do you think the Treaty of Paris is going to take place?
Africa.
Great answer, Africa. So it does. It'll take place in, sorry, no. It'll take place in Paris, France.
What was the year?
I'll wait a minute. The main title besides the Treaty of Paris is 1783. But yeah, the peace talks begin in Paris in 1782. And there are representatives from all over the world that come to, they will have a vested interest in these negotiations. Great Britain, United States, obviously, will be the two leading people in this one because we just fought a war for our independence against the British. France is also going to have some interest along with Spain and the Netherlands. Because all of these places, France, Spain, and the Netherlands, all have some sort of territorial stake to North America. So I want to make sure that when they sit down at the negotiating table, everybody gets their fair share, and everyone kind of has a little bit of say as, hey, I want this cut out, I want this, these are the demands I want to make. So in a negotiation like this, there's going to be a lot of people that start coming together. And we're really going to talk about kind of some of the leading players isn't the right phrase, but the leading figures that really start to shape out this Treaty of Paris. Sorry, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Look over and you see a big old truck coming right back toward the school. Well, like, I'm like looking this way, but I see it in the peripheral vision. I'm like, oh, he's coming fast. I mean, it's not like he was right here and just taking me out with it. Like I said, this is going to be kind of a quick one for you guys today because I've got something even more fun at the end here. Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 50. No, it's not really 50.
It's a 2.
I didn't bring candy today because.
That's a disappointment.
Is it a ride home?
No, I gave you a cookie. I gave you a candy last time. Did it go?
That don't count. We need the cookies.
You still owe Hannah a cookie.
I see Hannah almost every day, so she'll get a cookie at some point.
That dude looked really creepy.
All right. Like I said, you don't have to take a whole lot of notes on these ones. Just kind of get yourselves through here, because I think your test is going to be on Thursday, if I remember right. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. So there's really kind of some big people that really represent England and the United States. Richard Oswald, he's the gentleman who ends up representing the British. The United States send an ambassador by the name of Benjamin Franklin. And each man basically comes into this meeting and says, hey, this is what we want for the British. This is what we want for the new United States. And try to kind of come to an agreement on, hey, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. If you just remember Richard Oswald, British, Ben Franklin, United States, that's all you need on the slide. I am helping you out on this one. Oswald, Brit, Ben Franklin. Can anyone tell me something that Ben Franklin invented? There's several things. Light, well, not the light bulb. What? He discovered something. I heard somebody say it. Electricity. He also did something else. Bifocals. Parents have bifocal lenses. He created the bifocal glasses. Someone said he flew a kite. Yeah, he did fly. Someone told him to go fly a kite, and he just decided to do it on a rainy day. Yep. Not the shock therapy that he probably could have used at that point, but hey, teach their own. All right, like I said, I'm gonna move on now. Like
Did it actually shock him?
You can try to keep to the end of it. Do the thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what's the key
Yeah.
to Marty?
Because it was a conductor. It was a conductor of electricity.
It's
Metal.
like
You got electrocuted by lightning.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Alright, hold a metal pole up in
So, as I said, each nation, as they come to the negotiating table in Paris,
Carissa.
all you need to know, Richard Oswald, Britain,
Carissa, go hold
Ben
it
Franklin,
up.
US.
Like this.
boom. That's all you gotta know on that one. You got that, you're good. Good?
None of these times before.
I don't know. Britain, basically what they were wanting is they were trying to avoid at all costs, even though they had surrendered at Yorktown, they were still kind of leery about giving the United States full independence. And they really were trying to protect some of the loyalists that had remained in America. Who were the loyalists?
People that like was still on their side.
Yeah, people that didn't want to abandon Great Britain, people who were still loyal to the crown. Yeah, people that were still loyal to Great Britain. That's kind of self-explanatory. The loyalists. France, they really were kind of, they didn't want to have another major world player entering in the stage. We already had Spain, we had Great Britain, we had France. And France really wasn't wanting to try to add another person to the table. Because the more people you have at the table, the less each person's going to get. And France already had a lot of good trade deals with various nations, like Great Britain. They also had it with Spain. And they thought, well, if we had the United States in here, that's more stuff we have to negotiate. That's more treaties we have to try to make up with it. That's more money we have to ship to them. And they really weren't too interested in it. But Spain, on the other hand, they were more interested in acquiring more land. Even though they really didn't fight on either side during the War of Independence, France kind of helped us out. Spain was just like, hey, we got some land. We want that land. We don't care what we got to do. We just want some land. That's all Spain had. Basically, for the entire part of human history, Spain's like, ooh, that's some nice land you got over there, Robert. Come on, we're going to take that land. That's my land. That's all Spain does. Ooh, that's my, I like that. Amber, that's a nice land over here. I want to take the land. And then the United States, every once in a while, goes, oh, you can't take our land. That's an illegal occupation. And then the United States goes, hey, but we're going to take Cuba. Sorry, you'll learn about that much later down the road. It's just it's kind of how the United States goes. Yeah, the United States, from like the dawning of our time, we always tell people what you do is bad, but don't look at what we're doing because it's just as bad. Yeah, like when you start talking about like, I know I'm skipping ahead multiple chapters here. Like when you start talking about like sugar plantations and like the Spanish-American War, like we get really mad at the way that the Spanish treat Cuban Americans and Cuban immigrants. But then as soon as we win the war, we do the same thing. So it's like, don't look over here, but we're going to worry about what you're doing. I don't know where I was going with that with the ones down, but it just felt like a right moment right there. Pages beat that's 33 to nothing last night. Hey, what was that been away over there for? What you sent across the ocean?
The ocean?
Yeah. Let me see what it is.
These papers?
Who's got it? Yeah, we don't mean to throw paper across the room though.
Here, throw it back.
No, don't throw it to him. Throw it to me.
Go ahead.
There's a note in it. Read it. Read the note.
I am gonna read whatever's in here. I'm reading it, dude.
Read it out.
It does. That's something. If a note or something gets passed in my room, I read it.
You're good, bro. There's nothing.
I think she is the cutest girl in the whole school. I hope she goes to prom. No, there's nothing. There's nothing. No, there's nothing.
You walked across there whenever the trash.
I didn't know it was there.
You turned around and looked at it.
I did?
Yes.
Oh, okay, my bad. I don't pay attention.
The truck was too close.
Your eyes saw
Yeah, the truck was too close to that. I couldn't get over there in time. So basically, what the Americans really wanted, we wanted the exact opposite of what everybody else wanted. Britain didn't want us to gain full independence. We wanted the British to accept full, unconditional independence of the United States. Every single British soldier, get out. We don't want you in here anymore. You had to leave United States soil. Part of our Constitution, remember, Third Amendment, no illegal, we talked about last time? No illegal quartering soldiers. Huh? I know, I was just saying like last time I was here, I'm sorry. Ben Franklin's, his biggest thing was he thought America might feel better toward the British if they paid for some of those towns that were destroyed during the war. Britain really is not inclined to pay for stuff. You're like, you wanted your independence. That's the cost of war. But the United States goes, well, you know, you destroyed a lot of nice farmhouses here in the United States, and destroyed a lot of towns, just burned them to the ground. But we think we should be compensated for that pretty well. We rebuilt those for us. Do us a solid. Do us a solid. I know we just fought you for independence, and we made fun of you, and we wrote you this Dear John letter called the Declaration of Independence. But we'd like you to go ahead and pay for some of those towns if you don't mind. So those are kind of some of the sticking points that the United States has really kind of hung up on that they want taken care of in the treaty. Right here.
Can you see this time?
I can't. Nope, that's it, right there. Gonna do one better. So what do you want to do? I don't know.
You narrate everything you do?
As long as it doesn't like. Keeps me sane some days. Say something to myself. Alright. Bro. Yeah. Right. This one.
I thought you said it was gonna be quick.
I mean, they pretty much are. I mean, there's only 9 slides. What? Compared to what I've done before, that's only 9. Only 9.
Bruh.
Hey, all right, moving on. So, Continental Congress ends up sending 3 representatives to Paris to represent the United States. They send over Ben Franklin, John Jay, and John Adams. Out of those 3, who ends up becoming a president of the United States? John Adams. And his son, John Quincy Adams, also becomes president. The United States basically fears that the French and the Spanish are going to try to bargain with the British at the expense of the United States. They thought they were going to try to come to some sort of a deal between France, Spain, and Britain, and kind of make sure that the United States gets the short end of the stick. The British really wanted to end this war that cost a lot, not costed, sorry. But the negotiations really started to stall when England says, hey, we're not really going to recognize your full independence. But after there was an election of a more pro-American parliament in England, Great Britain gives in, accepts the terms of American independence, and America finally kind of gets their way on that, and they want their full independence. Britain finally agrees after Parliament makes some changes on their end. It took over a year for the terms of this treaty to be hashed out, negotiated, back and forth. It took over a year. And finally, September 3rd, 1783, Treaty of Paris is signed. So if I were to ask you, or if you see on a test, what was one? I'm trying to think how I want to word it. Why did peace negotiations stall during the Treaty of Paris? What would you tell me?
Easily would do the British down.
The British wouldn't recognize full American independence. appear on YouTube in a little bit, might appear on review later, I don't know. A couple things I've said throughout here might appear on the review later.
Is that supposed to be the final thing?
Winner's gonna get a prize. Winner gets a prize. You getting it?
No.
Oh,
Thumbs down.
why are you giving a thumbs down?
I don't agree with
Why do this when you can do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, do this. Good news is, you've only got,
6 more?
no,
2 more?
you got a rabbit ears full. No, I'm actually skipping a slide, because I put a picture in there that I don't like.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought it would work, but like, as I like went over more stuff, I don't like stuff. I'll test you guys' memory from other classes. Where did the British surrender to end the Revolutionary War? Where? Battle of what?
Bunker Hill.
Okay, never mind.
Although I say the last one that they fought was the Bunker Hill.
Battle of Yorktown. I'll give you that one. Yeah, my bad. Does that screen good? Make sure.
Are they like this much?
I think that's the longest one. Yeah, I'm not, like, I'm looking at, like, the last one's short. It's got like 4 points. The lake, short.
Well, that one's only got 5 points.
But it's got a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. I wasn't using that one.
What?
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Okay, there you go.
Wow.
We just see the picture.
I did see the picture.
There's blood on it.
Actually, no, it wasn't, it was wax, it was like a wax seal.
You ever seen those done? Those are so nice.
I know she would.
Do you put them like wedding invitations and stuff like that now?
Stay.
You know what's one thing I wish we could go back in time and do instead of writing like a pen, write like a big quill, with a big.
You know, fun that would be like just for a day.
Yeah, everyone should do like, dip in your little inkwell and just sign your letters. You guys couldn't do it though, you guys leave in cursive. Don't teach that anymore.
They taught us
I can
once,
do my
I can
name,
do
that's
first.
about it.
They taught us in 3rd grade.
Sixth grade, you can't do it. In the school, sixth graders cannot do it. All right. Oh,
Look at that.
Can they even do their name in cursive?
I can't read what it says.
That's a skill like everyone.
I know what my name is.
Text.
Hey guys, hey guys. I never thought a little bit, keep real quick, a couple more seconds here.
Wait, can they even do their name